global, leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Mr. Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Well, a hot day and passions rising in the House of Commons. Mind you, they always do when Donald Trump, of course, is being debated. Exchanges today in the House of Commons between the Shadow Foreign Secretary Emily Thornberry and the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson. During the election back in 2016, took a very anti-Trump, politically correct position. He said, of course, the main reason for not going to New York was in case he bumped into Donald J. Trump. But increasingly, Boris has become a little bit of a fan. He thinks Trump is achieving things. Here's an exchange today between Thornberry and Johnson.
The Foreign Secretary clearly has a new hero, and we know who he is, Mr. Speaker. The clue is in the hair. So can I ask the Foreign Secretary, when he said, as he did on the 6th of June, that he is, I quote, increasingly admiring of Donald Trump, he's begun to tell us some of the reasons why, but could he help those of us who are yet to be convinced? 3 things about this current president that he increasingly admires about him.
Mr. Speaker, I hesitate to say it, but I have anticipated the Right Honourable Lady's question. I pointed out, number one, that I thought it was an admirable thing that after the chemical weapons attacks led by the Assad regime, supported by the Russians, the Donald Trump's administration actually responded. I think it's a good thing that the United States is trying to solve the problem of a nuclear-armed North Korea, and trying very hard, and I admire at least the President's efforts in that respect. And I think it's a good thing, too, that the President is encouraging our European friends and partners to spend more on their own defence, and we should certainly be assisting in that effort.
Well, there we are. Boris, a convert. And by the way, isn't it nice to see Boris in the House of Commons? Sadly, he couldn't make it yesterday when they were debating the 3rd runway at Heathrow Airport. The thing that he said he would lie down in front of the bulldozers over. No, he was too busy to attend yesterday. But Boris back today and on form and standing up for the President on the basis that he supported us over Russia, and he's trying to make peace with North Korea. And this was Emily Thornberry's withering response.
When we have a president like Donald Trump who bans Muslims and supports Nazis, who stokes conflict and fuels climate change, who abuses women and cages children, that is not a record to be admired. That is a record to be abhorred. And I simply ask the Foreign Secretary not just why he joked that a man like that should be in charge of our Brexit negotiations, but why he thinks seriously that a man like that should have the honour in 2 weeks' time of visiting Chequers, Blenheim Palace and Windsor Castle and shaking hands with Her Majesty the Queen.
So there you are, Emily Thornberry. Clearly the Labour Party believe that Trump should not be allowed to come to the United Kingdom and that Trump is perhaps the worst human being to have lived since Hitler. That seems to be the message that I'm getting from Thornberry and many others. Well, just to really stir the pot, you'll remember that when Trump first became president, he put in place what was called a Muslim ban. The truth of it was, actually, President Obama had identified 7 countries that he thought were sponsors of terrorism, and what Obama did was to put in place extreme vetting. What Trump did was to up the ante on that and say, we're not going to take anybody from these countries until we're absolutely confident we're getting the right people. It led, if you remember, to mass protests in Westminster, led by Jeremy Corbyn, supported, of course, by Sadiq Khan, backed up by Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow. And it clearly led to a hell of a row in America as well. And yet today, the US Supreme Court, by a decision of 5-4, has upheld the President's decision and said he is able to put this in place. And here's Trump having received that judgment.
A tremendous success, a tremendous victory for the American people and for our Constitution. This is a great victory for our Constitution. We have to be tough, and we have to be safe, and we have to be secure.
So the president very, very happy with that, none of which is going to impress Emily Thornberry. And one of the reasons the temperature for all of this is heating up, as Thornberry pointed out, is that in 2.5 weeks' time, President Trump will be in the UK, he will be meeting the Queen, and I'm going to ask you tonight, given this debate, and as this Supreme Court today upholds Trump's travel ban, who is right about the US president? If you agree with Emily Thornberry that he is an abhorrent, appalling human being, then call me on 0345 6060 973. Or maybe you're like Boris and you think, do you know what? Whatever his style, whatever I thought, I'm beginning to change my mind. Text to 84850 and tell me, how do you feel about his travel ban? Is it outrageous and wrong, or is he making America just a little bit safer? Tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC, at LBC, and of course, as ever, watch us on Facebook and comment there too. Mervyn in Bow is my first caller on this subject. Good evening, Mervyn.
Good evening, Nigel. A pleasure to speak to you, sir.
Pleasure to speak to you.
Go down as history as a hero who saved us from the EU.
Well, Mervyn, that's very sweet of you, and there has been, in fact, a big development today on EU withdrawal, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So, Mervyn, when you hear Emily Thornberry taking the very high moral ground, really saying that Trump is an absolutely abhorrent human being, he shouldn't be visiting Windsor Castle or Buckingham Palace, is she right?
No, she's a complete and utter fake. She is a joke. She's a lady. She's a title lady. She's married to a High Court judge. If anything, she's a high-flying champagne socialist.
Well, it's not her fault, Mervyn. Come on, Mervyn. It's not her fault that she's married somebody with a title, is it? OK.
What about the insults she threw at the white van man? Anybody who had a St. George flag? This woman is a joke.
All right, Mervyn, I tell you what, you got me there. I'm going to stop playing devil's advocate. That was appalling, wasn't it? That was champagne socialist snobbery of the worst kind. Tweeting that picture, white van man with a cross of St. George, as if to say, aren't these people awful?
Yes, they are ashamed of us, Nigel. They are ashamed that we love our country and we fight for our own country. They don't want us to. They want us to get on our knees and pray to Europe for their little pittances. And someone on the radio the other day asked, James O'Brien, I think he was interviewing a lady politician, Labour, of course, and he said, "What have they done for us?" And she said, "Oh, they've given lots of money to deprive theirs. It's our bloody money. They're giving us back a little bit of our money." Yeah,
enough of the B word, Mervyn. It's early.
Sorry. It was only
we haven't reached the watershed. No, well, but Mervyn, tell me, Boris. I mean, during the US presidential election, I supported Trump. I even went on the stage with him, as you probably saw, going back then. I believed it was the right thing to do. Boris was pretty disparaging about Trump, but Boris now says, do you know what? This guy's achieving stuff. What's your own personal journey thinking about Trump as president?
I'm glad you asked that, Nigel. We look at Mr. Obama, who was a complete utter failure, who was given the Nobel Peace Prize for things he was going to do but never achieved.
Yes.
Look what Donald's done in Korea and towards the peace process. He deserves it, not Obama.
Well, Mervyn, let me tell you, I'm here in Brussels today. There is a European summit, of course, going to be here on Thursday, and it's been a fascinating day because actually Brexit's now very low on the agenda. They're much more scared here about Merkel falling and what Mr. Salvini is doing in Italy. But Mervyn, I will be standing up in the European Parliament next week and saying that President Trump, in getting the North Koreans to the table, in even discussing the potential of the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, has succeeded far more than Obama ever did. And I'm going to be asking for MEPs to support a nomination for Trump to get the Nobel Peace Prize.
Thoroughly agree with you, Nigel. Thoroughly agree with you.
Mervyn, thank you very much indeed. Thanks for the call. Going to go to Michael in Sidcup, a new caller to this show. Michael, good evening.
Good evening. It's a pleasure speaking to you.
Pleasure to speak to you, Michael. Now, Emily Thornberry has laid out very clearly and in a very articulate manner a sort of list of horrors about President Trump. Is she right, or is Boris right to say, do you know what? Whatever we think about this guy, he's doing stuff.
Well, this is what I need to know. Why are we sticking our nose into other countries when in this country they talk about children being caged or whatever. It's not really caged, are they? They've been put aside for some reason or other. But that's fine. So we go on about that. But in all these parts of the country, children are still being abused. No one has been charged with aiding and abetting paedophilia. No one at all.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Michael, there has to be, accusations are cheap. Accusations are very, very cheap, and reality can be different. But getting back to the main subject, Michael, Trump, he's accused of all sorts of things. In particular, these 7 countries where he wants a halt to people coming in, the so-called Muslim ban, it's been upheld today by the US Supreme Court. I mean, is he a monster for doing that, or is he making America safer?
Well, I tell you what he's doing. He's looking after his own country, isn't he? Unlike here. That is the problem we've got. He does things. People never liked him. I think he's a great thing. Unfortunately, I don't watch much of him because we've had our Sky, channel taken off for the one who supports.
Well, Fox News. Fox News is now very hard to get in this country. That's true.
Right.
Michael, were you always a supporter, or have you warmed to Trump since he became president?
No, always a support from day one. He's a brilliant man. He's done something, and he said on that day, Washington, watch out, and he's done it. And they don't like it. And why people in this country get so angry about this man? Sort your own country out. There's so many bad things going on here.
There are... Michael, can't disagree with that point. Thank you very much indeed. Karen on Facebook says Trump is far better than the previous 2 presidents, but Jackie says Trump is wrong and nothing ever turns out right. And on Twitter I get, seems like Emily has forgotten just a few months ago a number of women claiming that working in Westminster and in the EU Parliament was a horrible and a sexist environment. Well, look, it's not a perfect world, but Thornbury really today strongly taking the view that President Trump is abhorrent, he's ghastly, he shouldn't be coming to our country. Boris Johnson, despite the earlier disparaging remarks, now saying the guy's achieving something. Folks, I've been a Trump supporter all the way through. I know he sometimes says things that are a bit out there. He's very, very politically incorrect. My sense of it, way before the US presidential election, is that he had the right instincts, and I've never, ever backed down from that point of view. But I want to hear from you on 0345 6060 973. You come on, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me he's a monster. Tell me I've made the biggest mistake in my life in supporting him. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive on LBC, and it's now 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
Campaigners now calling for a rethink of a controversial policy that allows transgender people to use a women-only bathing pond after the government said it would maintain the law on single-sex spaces. Kate Welsh is a freelance journalist and writes and comments on issues such as these.
Trans women are women.
But why can't a group of women who were born women, why can't they have their own bathing club?
But what's that take away from their rights?
They want to have their own bathing club that are all born women, and they feel safer for whatever reason. Why do their rights count for nothing?
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times. Be not just informed, but well informed.
Sometimes you just fancy a restyle. A new bathroom, perhaps a new kitchen. But as with all stylish things, you'll want to make sure that they're fitted to perfection. That's where Trusted Trader are always on hand to help. TrustedTrader.com have lots of really lovely tradespeople who are vetted, reviewed and reliable, so you'll find the professional you need, including an expert who'll design and install that gorgeous new kitchen or bathroom. TrustedTrader.com.
London North Eastern Railway is now operating Virgin Trains East Coast service. You'll see the name changing to LNER, but that'll be about the only difference you'll notice. You can rest assured that all existing Virgin Trains tickets will still be valid and the services are being maintained, so there'll be no need to rejig your travel plans. Visit lner.co.uk for details.
Are you seeing this? If I bet £5 on any Bet Your Way market on the England game, Betway will give me a £5 free bet. With Bet Your Way, you can combine anything you like. Cards, corners, goal scorers and goals! And here I was thinking the World Cup couldn't get any better. A £5 free bet.
Betway, for the love of the game. Single bet at odds of evens or over. 18 plus. T's and C's apply. BeGambleAware.org.
Summer's here. Don't miss a drop. Get outdoors with the Land Rover Summer Sales Event from the 6th to the 8th of July. Enjoy 15% off all accessories and an additional £1,500 deposit contribution with 5.9% APR representative PCP finance. Search Land Rover Sales Event. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Selected models only. Credit subject to status. UK 18 plus only. Terms and conditions apply. Black Horse Limited trading as Land Rover Financial Services. 15% off all accessories. Purchased alongside a vehicle between the 6th and 8th of July 2018. Subject to availability. At participating retailers only.
Exciting lineup here from the Lidl team. Budweiser, 4 cans, $3.99. Snacktastic tortilla chips, 69p. And Galero Premium Lager, 4 cans, $2.79. The first half looks like a mouth-watering prospect. Lidl, big on quality, little on price. Subject to availability, selected stores. Prices in Scotland and NI may vary.
You know you're Baroque from your rock, from your contemporary jazz, from your German underground progressive minimal techno. But do you know your pension options? PensionWise is a service set up by the government to provide free, impartial guidance about your pension pot. If you're over 50, call 0800 138 1888 to book your free telephone or face-to-face appointment. PensionWise. Get to know your options.
This is LBC, live from Brussels, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag FarageOnLBC.
In 2.5 weeks' time, Donald Trump will be in the UK, and unsurprisingly, on a hot day in London, passions in Westminster about Donald Trump were pretty high. Boris now thinks he's a pretty good chap, having not thought so previously. Emily Thornberry thinks he's totally and utterly abhorrent, and all this on the day when the US Supreme Court upholds his so-called travel ban, or Muslim ban, as some would say, although given that North Korea and Venezuela are part of it, clearly it is not simply about Muslim countries, it is about America being very, very strict in terms of what they think the terror threat may be. Now, I have this feeling that there is more support for Trump in our country than is actually being acknowledged by large sections of the media. On Twitter, I support Trump's ban as he is looking out for his own citizens. And that comes from Woody. I don't think that's Woody Johnson, the US ambassador, but you never know. Let's ask Darren in Oldham what he thinks. Good evening, Darren.
Hello, Nigel. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to defend Emily Thornberry.
Okay.
How dare you insult that wonderful lady? She's civilised. She's educated.
Darren, have I insulted her?
Absolutely. You put
Tell me
her
how.
down and you're insulting her because she is civilised. She is decent. She knows what she's talking about. You're blinkered. You're blinkered to the
Darren, I'm happy. Please, you can say everything you want, but please tell me, I thought I'd been objective. I may not agree with her, but how have I insulted Emily Thornberry?
You're being sarcastic. You're making it sound like silly little rich liberal lady, which she isn't. Well, you're so blinkered with Donald Trump.
I've said none of those things. Darren, I've said none of those things. I've said none of those things. I have laid out.
Thornberry is wonderful. I'd rather have her any day as the Prime Minister than Trump as my President. Your friend Donald Trump proved racism, sexism, payments to hookers that he did know about, that he didn't know about, that his lawyer may have paid. He's unfit, Nigel. The transgender ban in the military, children in concentration camps, and you want him to get the Peace Prize. You're joking.
I do.
You're having a laugh.
I know, Darren. I mean, look. And by the way, you have not yet. Hang on, you have not yet proven in any way at all that I've been insulting towards Emily Thornberry, and I haven't been.
You have. You've been sarcastic towards her, and you put her down. You make skits about her. She's wonderful. She's civilised. She's decent. Donald Trump is a racist.
So I've been mildly sarcastic. Darren, hang on. I've been mildly sarcastic. Okay, hands up about Emily Thornberry. Listen to what you're saying about Trump. I mean, that's real insult, isn't it?
No, that's proof. That's real. Proved racism, proved sexism, yeah? Has he not banned transgenders from the military? Has he not made derogatory comments about people from Mexico? Yes, he has. They're proved facts. Okay, he might be your friend, but he's unfit, unprofessional, undiplomatic. He's nasty, and Hillary Clinton should be in the White House.
Right, well, he has, and you're right, as far as transgender people in the US military are concerned. There was initially a blanket ban that has now been changed to people who may psychologically pose a substantial risk. I mean,
why did his lawyer pay money to the porn star?
What? Do you know what, Darren? Do you know what, Darren? Do you know what, Darren? Darren, who cares?
Sorry?
Who cares? Are you really? Well, you know, well, it was okay for Bill Clinton to do goodness knows what with a junior intern. Whether Trump has done this or not, Darren, no one cares.
Of course they do. How dare you say that? No one cares.
No.
About a racist, a sexist.
No. You asked me. No, Darren, I'm sorry. You asked me about Stormy Daniels, right? And there may be people, Darren, who are worried about the accusations of Stormy Daniels. I think the vast majority of Trump voters couldn't care less about his private life. What they care, and you know what? Could we care less anymore about, I mean, Boris Johnson was there today in the House of Commons as Foreign Secretary. It would be fair to say, in terms of his personal life, he's had one or two slips and scrapes. And you know what, Darren? No one cares.
And he's another fool and another clown like Trump who'll never get to power, which is where he wanted to get. And the minute Brexit...
But he's the Foreign Secretary, for goodness sake.
He's a clown. He's a fool.
Darren, you seem to come on.
Emily Thornberry should be the Prime Minister.
Look, Darren, can I just say this to you? Darren, I actually, on a personal level, I really like Emily Thornberry. I find her very amusing, very good company. I actually like her as a person, but I think she's taken this moral high ground, almost speaking like a vicar in Parliament about Donald Trump. And Darren, you may agree with her, but I think she's pretty wide of the mark. I think a lot of the British public are seeing through all of this and recognise that whilst Donald Trump may be rough round the edges, he gets things done, doesn't he?
He's a racist, he's a sexist, and you've got it wrong, Nigel.
So is he? I mean, Emily was really telling us that he's the worst human being there's been in the last 75 years. You would agree with that, would you?
Possibly.
All right, okay, Darren. Don't say I didn't give you a fair chance to have your go, because you did. Who is Emily to say who should meet our Queen? I would put my safety and trust in our Queen's and Trump's beliefs any day, says Caroline, as a counter to Darren, who feels very, very passionately against Trump. And I do understand. There are people like Darren out there who can't stand Trump, who think he's awful. But my feeling, my suspicion is there are lots and lots of quiet Trumpers out there who are beginning to think, boy, I wish this guy was running our country. That's what I think. John in Nottingham is a new caller to this show. Good evening, John.
Good evening, Nigel.
So, did Thornberry get it right, or is Boris right to say, I didn't like the look of him, but he's doing quite a good job?
Boris is right.
Is he?
Absolutely. And I think that the whole Stormy Daniels thing, and I'm saying this as a man, I look at Stormy Daniels, and no doubt I had exactly the same thoughts that Trump did, that nearly every red-blooded male in this country had, and Trump actually did it.
But we don't know, John. Now stop it. We don't know what happened there, do we?
No, but to be serious, I think it's showing Trump's humanity, that he is a man, and like all human beings, he's fallible. It does not make him a bad politician.
Do you know what, John? Whatever the speculation around this may be, the point I made to Darren, the previous caller, is that increasingly electorates couldn't care less because they now, I don't think, expect politicians to have higher moral values than they've got.
I agree, and I think what they expect them to do is respect democracy. And I think Trump, people go, oh, he tweeted this, he's tweeting that. He's communicating with his base, the people who voted him into office. I was listening to the Harley Davidson and what he's doing with Harley Davidson. He is following through on his promise to the people who elected him into office.
Yeah, this is. Do you know what, John? This is the one thing that I keep putting to people who don't like Trump, and they really struggle to get back. He is. I mean, Chris, by the way, on SMS just says to me, John, while you're on, he says, I admire the president because he's kept his promises, and I find it ironic. I find it ironic that Labour hates a man that's putting people in work. He is, isn't he?
Absolutely, and he's delivering. And I think first of all, I wish to congratulate you. I think with your backers, you almost single-handedly turned the country away from Europe. I voted Remain, but I respect the democratic decision. One has to, otherwise one is Jeremy Corbyn, a proto-communist, basically. So I have to respect that vote, and I think the one thing that's disappointing me is that on the ballot paper, it was Remain Leave. I didn't say negotiate trade deal on my ballot paper. Leave meant leave. So, and yet here we are, 18 months later.
Oh, John, it's absolutely pitiful. And, you know, we've got this European summit. We've got this European summit coming up on Thursday. And actually, the truth of it is, Brexit's going to be a small part of that. Firstly, because they've got big problems with Italy. They're scared that if Merkel goes discipline, it's going to break down. But also because Theresa May is happy to continually kick the can down the road. And it is.
Absolutely.
And actually, do you know what? The one argument, when we hear these businesses being critical, the one argument in their favour is, why don't the government just get on with it so that business knows where it stands, and this constant delay is leading to great uncertainty. John, it's a great call. I thank you very much for it. Peter is the complete opposite on Facebook of Emily Thornberry. He says, can't wait for the greatest president ever to come to our country. Peter, even for me, that is a bit over the top. But this guy is keeping his promises. He's doing well. And I think Emily Thornberry, in taking this high moral ground against him, actually is missing increasingly where a very large number of people are, whether they like Trump's style, his appearance, his demeanour or not. I think there is a growing respect for this president. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive on LBC. It's now 7:30 and time for the news with Tim Humphrey.
Minicab hailing app Uber has been given a 15-month licence to operate in London. The ruling overturns a decision by officials not to renew its permit, but the Mayor, Sadiq Khan, is stressing the firm will be closely monitored. A man's been found guilty of planning a knife attack outside the Houses of Parliament. 28-year-old Khalid Ali was plotting to kill MPs and police when he was arrested in central London last April. Rail services to and from Waterloo, the country's busiest railway station, have been disrupted for a second day running. South Western had a lot of different issues yesterday, but today's problems have been caused by a fire under a train between Surbiton and Weybridge. LBC weather dry and clear for most tonight, although some mist and low cloud will spread across eastern areas, a low of 12 degrees.
LBC travel, the M4 is slow out of town from junction 5 for Langley to junction 8-9 for Maidenhead following an accident, taking around 20 minutes to get through. And on the South Circular Road in Clapham, it's part blocked at Clapham Common South side because of an accident, very slow through there. Brixton and Cold Harbour Lane is heavy both ways at Gresham Road. A car has overturned, partly blocking the road. And in Lower Clapton, Leabridge Road is slow at the Leabridge roundabout where it's part blocked because of an accident. LBC Travel, I'm Charlotte Downs.
Follow the historic royal tour of the Middle East, all this week on LBC.
What do you need to get the very best start in your media career? How about state-of-the-art studios? The very latest technology? Learning from the best minds in the industry? At a school where you can study GCSEs and A-levels alongside the vocational media qualifications you need. Your future is here. The Global Academy, a forward-thinking state school for 14 to 19-year-olds interested in a media career. Visit globalacademy.com to find out more.
Are you seeing this? If I bet £5 on any Bet Your Way market on the England game, Betway will give me a £5 free bet. With Bet Your Way, you can combine anything you like. Cards, corners, goal scorers and... And here I was thinking the World Cup couldn't get any better. A £5 free bet.
Betway, for the love of the game. Single bet at odds of evens or over. 18 plus. T's and C's apply. BeGambleAware.org.
Your data matters to the NHS. Information about your health and care helps us improve your individual care, plan your local services, and research new treatments. The strict rules about how this data can and cannot be used have been strengthened. We're committed to keeping your information safe and being clear about how it is used. You can choose whether your confidential patient information is used for research and planning. To find out more, search Your NHS Data Matters. This has been brought to you in association with the Information Commissioner's Office.
For everyone who wants more from their Wi-Fi. For everyone who wants to binge-watch box sets all day long. For everyone who's been stung by unexpected broadband price hikes. TalkTalk has your back. Because our faster fibre comes with our promise of no mid-contract price rises and includes our all-new Wi-Fi hub. With our fastest, strongest, most reliable signal yet. All for just £25.50 a month for 18 months. Search TalkTalk Fibre. TalkTalk for everyone. £30 setup fee, contracts and conditions apply.
Sometimes you just fancy a restyle. A new bathroom. Perhaps a new kitchen. But as with all stylish things, you'll want to make sure that they're fitted to perfection. That's where Trusted Trader are always on hand to help. TrustedTrader.com have lots of really lovely tradespeople who are vetted, reviewed and reliable, so you'll find the professional you need, including an expert who'll design and install that gorgeous new kitchen or bathroom.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Brussels, only on LBC.
Well, Boris has backtracked. I mean, initially, he thought President Trump, or candidate Trump as he then was so awful it was a reason to avoid going to New York City. Now he says he's got a growing admiration for the US president, a sentiment not shared by Emily Thornberry, who thinks he's abhorrent and certainly should not be getting any form of red carpet treatment in 2.5 weeks' time. And I'm asking you, given that's happened on the same day that the US Supreme Court has backed Trump's travel ban, who's right, Boris or Emily Thornberry? But first, a significant moment today. The EU withdrawal bill. Remember, that was a game of parliamentary ping-pong going on between the Commons and the Lords. And I think a very important piece of legislation today has moved on to its final stage. And to explain all of this to us, LBC's political editor, Theo Usherwood. Theo, good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. Yes, a mere formality. Her Majesty the Queen putting her signature to the EU withdrawal bill, giving it royal assent, announced in the House of Commons by Speaker Sir John Bercow. And this paves the way now for the bill to become an act. And, of course, it sets the stage for Theresa May's Brexit, Nigel. So Theresa May will maybe enjoying a small sherry in Downing Street this evening with that announcement.
How significant do you think this is, Theo?
It's significant in that the test had always been for Theresa May of trying to marry up the Brexiteers' fears about the customs union, and the wording there was a bit of a fudge. They came up with the idea that it was going to be a customs arrangement, and then on the other hand, the likes of Dominic Grieve, Nicky Thornberry, Nicky Morgan, and Anna Soubry, they voiced concerns, didn't they, about Parliament having a final say, and pushed it right to the wire, and then backed down at the very last minute, saying that concessions enough for the Speaker to set the terms around exactly what a meaningful vote could be were enough. And Theresa May managed to keep both sides happy, and so she moves on to the next stage of negotiating that deal through the summer, into the final deal through the summer, into October, and then the crunch summit in December with the EU Council.
I think, as a leaver, that it is a significant moment. It may be a rotten Brexit, but Brexit got a bit closer. Now, more vexing to me is Uber, who, I have to say, I've always taken the view, have really not behaved terribly well. A court ruling today, Theo.
Yes, in Westminster Magistrates Court, they've been granted a 15-month probationary licence by the Chief Magistrate, Emma Arbuthnot. To provide a bit of context to this, Uber applied for a 5-year operator's licence. That's the licence given by the regulator, Transport for London, to companies that want to run private hire cabs, minicabs in London. It's usually 5 years. Uber had failed to renew their licence in September last year amid concerns that they were failing to report sexual assaults against women by their drivers, amongst other things. Sadiq Khan stood by Transport for London's decision. Obviously, Uber, as a multinational company, decided to appeal that ban. It arrived, that appeal, in the Magistrates' Court today. Emma Arbuthnot, the magistrate, deciding that in actual fact Uber had changed its ways, as the company's lawyers had pleaded, ordering them to pay £425,000 towards Transport for London's legal costs, but she said that it was fit and proper. That was despite Helen Chapman, who's in charge of licensing at Transport for London, just saying that the regulator had endured what was a difficult relationship with Uber. Now, Uber, for its part, said that it was determined to put things right, and that if it was seen by TfL ever to breach its licence again and the conditions set on this probationary licence, including making sure that it had independent directors on its board, then TfL could simply suspend or revoke its licence.
So they got 15 months to prove themselves right, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. And then TfL can look at it again, and I'm sure if it goes well, then Uber will apply for a full 5-year licence. If it goes badly, then I'm sure we'll find ourselves back before the courts.
Theo, thank you very much indeed. And I'll see you here in Brussels on Thursday for the European Summit, and look forward to seeing you then. Well, Uber getting really quite a big win today. I mean, OK, it's not a 5-year licence, it's a 15-month one. It's supposed to be probationary. But do you know what, folks? Big money always seems to win, doesn't it? That's my view. Hey-ho. But back to Donald Trump and some real passion coming through. Ashraf says Trump will go down in history as worse than Hitler. Ashraf, do you really, honestly and truthfully believe that? Come on, Nigel. You're a decent man. How can you support this idiot? I mean, the thought that he's worse than Hitler, Ashraf, frankly, I think people are allowing their dislike of Trump's style to send them halfway round the twist. The likes of Thornbury hate Trump because he exposes the likes of her for how useless they are. Things can be done, says Steve from Sutton. Trump is doing his job and making a success of it. Can't someone tell me what is wrong with that? He's welcome to Britain to meet the Queen, says Kathy. What does Joseph in West Cumbria make of this debate? Joseph, very strong opinions on both sides of this.
Yes, well, I occupy quite an awkward middle ground, really. You know, I don't particularly like Donald Trump as a person, but I think Emily Thornberry is wrong. You know, regardless of our opinions on the man, he is the head of state and government of the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world. So we do need to afford him that courtesy, just as we've afforded the courtesy to the heads of states of Saudi Arabia, Myanmar, other authoritarian regimes. You know, it's all about pragmatism and keeping our international relations solid rather than taking any moral high ground.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very practical answer. Joseph, is it Trump's brashness? Is that where your reservation about him is?
Well, I couldn't really pinpoint anything exactly. You know, partially it is his brashness, yes. I do just find it a bit, you know, uncouth as a Cumbrian. I know that's a bit ironic. But
I didn't know Cumbrians were uncouth, Joseph.
Well, come to Whitehaven sometime, we'll show you.
I was actually up there a few weeks ago, and they were all very nice. But hey, Joseph, I think a lot of people are like you. I think, you know, Trump initially put some people off. He's not what you expect from a US president. He is this big, breast-beating, alpha male, larger-than-life figure, and people see him as boastful and over the top. But I think Boris's position, Joseph, probably, is one that many people occupy. They weren't so sure what they were getting, but they're beginning to get a grudging respect for what he did.
Well, I think he's getting the occasional thing right. To be honest, I don't think the conference with Kim Jong-un was one of them. You know, he openly said that he admired Kim Jong-un because when he spoke, his people stood at attention, and he wanted that to happen to him with his own people. And, of course, they stand at attention because the prison camps await if they don't. So I don't think that's really something to want to emulate.
No, I tell you what, Joseph, I won't fight you on that one. All right, listen, thank you for your call. Nigel, interesting how you put it earlier. There's lots of quiet Trumpers out there, I did say that. We've all heard the expression, silent but deadly. The difference is, he's loud and deadly. His divisive, ignorant, backward approach, if widely adopted, will see the world brought to wreck and ruin, says Chris. Well, I don't know, Chris. It might see us being a bit more peaceful. It might see the re-establishment of the nation state and not false organisations like the European Union. That's my view. John is calling from Nottingham. John, good evening. OK, let's go to Mark in Windsor. Mark, good evening.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. Well, Emily Thornberry today was eloquent, passionate, in her total condemnation of absolutely everything Donald Trump is as a human being, and suggesting that really he shouldn't be coming to our country. And I know you're a new caller to our show, and welcome, Mark. How do you feel about her comments?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Not a bit.
The first thing is, I don't follow politics at all. Well, not much, but obviously you hear stuff and read stuff in the press and that. And
yeah.
For me, Donald Trump seems a bit of a bull in the china shop. But what he does have is a spine. He's got a backbone. And I just wish British politicians would have a bit of that, just that ounce of what he has, because at the moment, my feeling is their spine release catches are as strong as wet tissue paper. They can't do much.
Do you know, Mark, you calling him a bull in a china shop, some people would use that as a pejorative, derogatory term. Other people would say what it needs is a bull in a china shop to shake the whole thing up, to disrupt the complacency of global politics. And I do believe your comment could be taken both ways. You take it that the guy's got backbone and he actually goes out and does what he says, yeah?
Yeah, he delivers on what he says. And I just wish every other politician could do the same. But
do you know what? I couldn't agree with you more. He is keeping his promises. And isn't it funny? You know, he said, I'm going to move. I mean, whether you agree or not, he said in the campaign, just as Obama had said and Clinton had said and one of the Bushes had said, he said in the campaign, I'm going to move the Israeli embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. They all said it. Trump did it, and then they all say it's awful. Mark, do you think he should be welcomed in this country in 2.5 weeks' time?
I think he should have a state visit.
Well, he may well be.
Whistles and bells.
Do you know what? He may well. I'm not sure whether it's Buckingham Palace and Windsor or one or the other, but you may well see him in Windsor or hear the helicopters or the motorcade. And I'm told that a state visit is following in about a year or so later. Mark, I thank you very much indeed. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show exclusively on LBC, and it's now 7:45.
Uber has won a new licence for London to run for 15 months, subject to complying with a list of requirements. Is this the right decision?
This summer, follow the sun, not the crowd. With the Jaguar Summer Sales Event from the 6th to the 8th of July, enjoy 15% off all accessories and an additional £1,500 deposit contribution with 5.9% APR representative PCP finance. Search Jaguar Sales Event. Jaguar, the art of performance.
Selected models only. Credit subject to status. UK 18+ only. Terms and conditions apply. Black Horse Limited trading as Jaguar Financial Services. 15% off all accessories. Purchased alongside a vehicle between the 6th and 8th of July 2018. Subject to availability. At participating retailers only.
You know your business. What it needs. What keeps you up at night. And what gets you fired up every morning. You know where you want to be in 5 years' time. And that you really want to be there in 2. We know we can help you get there. Barclays now offers unsecured loans of up to £100,000 that can be with you in days or even hours to help move your business forward. To apply for a loan that's just right for your business, search Barclays Business Loans. Let's go forward. Subject to status, terms and conditions apply, guarantee may be needed.
Hi
high-quality, affordable kitchens designed in your own home. That's Room Sense.
That's Room Sense.
Book your free Room Sense home design visit and we'll measure up, show you samples, create a stunning kitchen design and give you a quote all before we leave.
Quality at a price you can afford. That's Room Sense.
Book today at roomsense.co.uk.
Clive, what's doing Wolf? Whale music? You must be one stressed-out private landlord.
Yes, I am!
Your tenants are struggling financially and can't pay their rent. But you're with Direct Line. They'll repay any unpaid rent until your tenants are out. So drop the stress ball. It'll all be over soon. Ah, that's better.
Claim back unpaid rent after 1 month's arrears with rent guarantee. Can your insurance do that? Search Direct Line Landlord. Cover purchased as part of legal expenses add-on. Qualifying criteria apply. Restricted claims for existing tenants in the first 90 days when product first purchased.
Block management. 2 very simple words. But what do they actually mean? Well, there's budget approval for starters, then service charge invoices, health and safety paperwork, cleaning, gardening, maintenance, inspections, contracts, insurance, emergency call-outs, and a whole lot more besides.
So for complete block management solutions, just remember 3 simple letters. ABC. ABC Estates will take care of all your day-to-day management, leaving you as happy as Larry. See abcestates.co.uk or call 0800 888 6688.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Brussels, only on LBC.
Boris has a grudging respect now for President Trump. Emily Thornberry thinks he's abhorrent and ghastly and shouldn't really be coming. And all of this on the day when the US Supreme Court upholds the Trump travel ban. And the president is very happy about that indeed. Gloria says Trump is a rough cut diamond. I think, Gloria, there's a lot of truth in that. Bull in the China shop was said before the break, and that was true as well. From a non-Trump supporter, I do think of Trump, if he was negotiating Brexit, we'd be long done by now. Well, maybe that's right. And Lee from Dulwich says, Trump has broken political correctness. His policies actually favour US citizens over non-citizens. It's not racism, it's his job. Let's go to Lambourne and speak to Gaynor, and she's a new caller to this show. Welcome, Gaynor.
Hello, Nigel. Absolute pleasure to speak to you, I have to say. Do you know what? I just want to say, who does Emily Thornberry think she is, honestly? At the end of the day, she is never going to be any kind of leader of any kind in our country, yet she has the gall to put down someone who's been democratically elected to a great country such as the USA. I honestly don't get it.
Gaynor, she's a moral guardian. She's pointing out that sinners like you and I, who've been tempted by the Trump, should listen to her and become better people.
Oh, for goodness sake, at the end of the day, the USA are our great allies. They're our great partners in a lot of things. And at the end of the day, people may not agree with everything Trump says or he does, but the man deserves the respect. Who else is going to get Kim Jong-un to the table? Certainly not Emily Thornberry.
Well, I know. I mean, absolutely, Gaynor. Although I have to say, I don't really worry too much about Emily Thornberry being rude about President Trump. What worries me is our own Prime Minister repeatedly criticising the President, joining in every single politically correct chorus. That's what really gets me down. So, Gaynor, were you somebody who liked Trump from early on, or are you like a Boris? Is he kind of growing on you a bit?
I've liked Trump from early on, and to be honest with you, my mum is a US citizen, voted for Trump. She works in frontline healthcare, and to be honest with you, she's seen kind of how it's gone over the last few years, and she voted for Trump really as well because he was the better of 2 candidates, as she sees it.
Well, I mean, there are many who thought that it was a very poor choice between the 2 candidates, but do you know what, Gaynor? Trump won, and I don't think there are many on the other side who still, 18 months on, have kind of got over it. Gaynor, thank you for calling the show. Welcome. Nigel, if Donald stood for election in this country, I would vote for him, says Steve. On Facebook, Steve said, where's the wall? Hillary not in prison. Drain the swamp. He won the election on these promises too. Steve, you're absolutely right, and I do actually think he does need to build the wall. Trouble is, he's got to get Congress to approve the money. That's the difficult bit. And Hillary not in prison, well, do you know what? The Donald's gone soft on crooked Hillary. And draining the swamp, well, I tell you what he has done. He's appointed a lot of people to senior positions who've never been in career politics at all. It's a start. He can't do everything. I think he is making progress, Steve. I think he has kept many of his promises. Duncan from Reigate, another new caller to this show. Good evening, Duncan.
Oh, good evening, Nigel. First time I've spoken to you on the radio, my friend.
Well, I'm delighted to have you on. Delighted to have you on. And it's interesting, actually, because a lot of people say to me, Duncan, there's no point calling in because we'll never get through. But you've proved tonight that it's possible. So welcome.
All right, you might hang on for a little bit, but eventually your producer...
If you're very patient. Yeah, depends on the subject. Anyway, Duncan, the floor is yours. You tell me whether Emily Thornberry is right or whether Boris has a point that whatever we think of Trump as a person, he should earn some respect from us.
No, I think Emily Thornberry is totally wrong.
Do you?
I think so many British politicians have the same opinion, and it's totally wrong. The man deserves a state visit any time he wants one, because actually the way he's dealt with what he's been dealing with, as in every single thing he promised on his campaign that he's been able to deliver so far, he's delivered.
He does say Duncan, he does say occasionally some very provocative things, doesn't he?
Oh, so does Boris Johnson.
Right. Well, Boris, of course, can be all over the place. Although I did notice, Duncan, that Boris wasn't in Westminster for the Heathrow vote yesterday. But hey ho.
But what Donald does say, and so he goes a bit off field. He's shaking things up. He's bringing things similar to what you did over the 4 years over the EU.
So Boris using
slightly.
Boris using the F word about business is a bit similar. It's similar to some of Trump's outbursts. But Duncan, do you understand? I mean, you're a Trump supporter, and you can see the merit in him, as I can. Do you understand why some people feel offended by him?
I know why they feel offended by him, because I personally believe that at the moment there is so much political correctness, and everyone feels bound to follow the media line on this is wrong, this is right. You get drummed into by, say, the BBC all the time, and they go, we're not allowed to think this anymore.
Yeah,
and
isn't it funny?
Donald says, no, I say what I say.
Isn't it funny?
I'm not afraid to take on mainstream media.
Duncan, isn't it funny that any leader that says, I am going to put the interests of my own country and my own people before others, get told they're fascists for saying it? It's bizarre, isn't it?
I'd tell you what, I'd put that down to about 50 of the 650 MPs we've got that would actually put our country before their own interests.
Well, their own interests, or indeed the interest, Duncan, of higher international organisations like the one I'm broadcasting from tonight. Duncan, thank you very much indeed for calling this show. John on Facebook says, wow, a leader who sticks up for his own people. Please come over here and replace the leaders we have. No, John, that isn't going to happen. I know he's half British, but he is a US citizen. On Twitter, Congress to release the money. He said Mexico would pay for it. Do you know what? He did say Mexico would pay. You're absolutely right. And I know what his thinking was. His thinking was there are about 1 million Mexicans who cross that border every single day to work in the USA. And the way he was going to get Mexico to pay was to charge them a toll for doing it every day. It will take some time for Mexico to pay, but in the short term, the money has got to be released by Congress, and that is a bit of a problem. Let's go to the East Coast, to Lowestoft, and speak to Stuart. Good evening, Stuart.
Good evening, Nigel. Yes, great to get through. The phrase for me is low information, which is what I would put Emily Thornberry into that category. Now, YouTube, the internet is available to virtually every politician in the UK. They only have to go on to alternative media channels to get the complete opposite of what we get from the ITV and the BBC. You know, it reminds me of that film The Matrix, you know, where you either drop the red pill or the blue pill. I think in this occasion, Boris has woken up and dropped the red pill.
Right, okay. I mean, Stuart, do you really genuinely think that what you see on mainstream media is a completely different world to what you get on the internet. I mean, is it that big a gulf?
I mean, I've been following it for a couple of years now. I've watched all of Trump's speeches. I've watched commentators like Alex Jones, David Knight, Mike Cernovich, people that most politicians in this country probably haven't even heard of.
So you are, Stuart, on the right of politics, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, at first, when I watched Trump's speeches, I mean, yes, he is brash, yes, he's a New Yorker. I mean, I spent time in the US myself.
And Stuart, you're right. This point that he's a New Yorker, New Yorkers are a bit like that, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely, yes. But I think, in a way, it's a wind-up. You know, it's a cheekiness that he has, that kind of, and his supporters love it. I was watching him in South Carolina last night. I mean, they just love it. I mean, there were black people there were women for Trump. You know, you watch Question Time over here, and all you get is constant bias, and it's basically because they haven't seen the other side of the story.
No, well, Stuart, you know, he has been incredibly prejudiced against, but I'm with you. I think very often he says things to quite deliberately inflame and wind up the other side, including, of course, CNN and, as he calls them, the failing New York Times. We've never seen, you know, a frontline global leader quite as confrontational with the media as Trump is. They hate him back for it. Stuart, I thank you very much indeed. Trump and his father have been helping Americans for a century. The British see him only as someone new on the scene, only as a TV presenter, says Diane from Ealing. Well, look, he was a TV presenter. He was a big real estate developer. He had huge ups and downs in his business life. He came out on top. He's gone into politics. He's won. Actually, folks, he isn't just running America. I think he's actually reshaping the world and doing it in a totally extraordinary way. And I have to say, pleased that I put my head over the parapet and supported him. I really am. You've been listening to Nigel Farage here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow night at 7. This evening at 10, it's Ian Collins. But up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you. Coming up at 9, it's the